Reactionary theme. It's a podcast show. JTAKRAOSPE11 for 33 and 34. But before that, the question on everyone's mind, which cereal mascot would win in a fight? It depends on many factors, of course, but I'll tell you how I see it playing out. You might think that Wheaties has a good chance of winning this, what with its army of popular athletes, but as we all know, athletes are superstitious and cowardly, so Count Chocula is like to terrorize and murder the lot of them. Frankenberry, on the other hand, is kind. He would try to help the humans, but he's also very stupid, so he'd be lured by the Honey Nut Cheerios bee into a boiling vat of honey. Having said that, we all know Frankenberry's kind of a drama queen, so he'd probably grab the bee and they'd both go down together. And the actions of Count Chocula would eventually bring the attention of Special K's own Special K, the holy light of which would surely turn the Count to dust. Or chocolatey powder. But what Special K won't expect is the Raisin Bran son's old grudge to rise up, resulting in a K buried in boiling raisins, which will give just enough time for the Lucky Charms leprechaun to use his powerful magic to put out the Raisin Bran son. And once Lucky's finished, of course, his weakened self will be eaten by the Sugar Crisp Bear. Snap, Crackle, and Pop would want to avenge Lucky, but Crackle's insane junkie ass will be too wrapped up licking the long-dead Honey Smacks frog to do anything. Also, Snap and Pop are complete puss cakes, so they just flee for the seas, where they should probably have expected being captured and subsequently killed by Captain Crunch. Of course, the Trix Rabbit, ere a master of disguise, will have taken the place of one of Crunch's crewmen. Once the whole crew's attention is on the elf execution, he'll surely stab the captain in the back and then jump overboard, forgetting that he cannot even swim because the Trix Rabbit is batshit fucking crazy. Speaking of batshit crazy, the Cookie Crisp dog will by now have been lured into some dark corner of some jungle by alluring scents laid out by Toucan Sam. A trap, of course, but I'd wager the Toucan family will underestimate the dog, thinking a deadly snake-filled pit of spikes is enough to stop him. Of course, it just makes him mad. Being mad, Mad Dog will eat the Toucan family whole, but sadly choke on the bones afterwards. Tony the Tiger, heir the sportsman, will by now be running a coliseum made from the bones of the remaining Wheaties athletes. The Cinnamon Toast Crunch Baker will have done surprisingly well here, but his final match against the Cocoa Puff Bird will be the end of him. Even shackled to the ground, he is one cuckoo son of a bitch. But knowing the end is near, Tony the Tiger will step down from his throne to finish the bird himself. And then the final contenders will arrive. Yes, Fred and Barney. Tony will have the advantage, of course, being a giant goddamn tiger, but I dare say he'll be overconfident. Fred and Barney are faster than they look, their stumpy legs honed from years of what they call driving. Likewise, their love-hate relationship will throw the tiger off his game, so I reckon Tony's skull will be bashed in with a club while he's mauling Fred. And that is when things will get weird. See, remember the Sugar Crisp Bear eating the leprechaun earlier? Well, if you eat a leprechaun, you turn into a leprechaun, so the Sugar Crisp Bear, a newly anointed leprechaun, will ride a rainbow into the arena, confidently challenging Barney as the last survivor. Of course, Barney, being the sly bastard that he is, would remind the Sugar Crisp Bear that being a leprechaun means he can no longer really represent Sugar Crisp as the Sugar Crisp Bear, and that would be the end of it. Fruity Pebbles winning by default. Of course, Barney would still be turned inside out with rainbow magic afterwards, but he won. So moving on to Force. Force 33, the 32nd episode. You begin with Fjarsengard and classmates being told they're going on a class trip to Kyoto, because that part of the game was surely why so many people bought Persona 3. Also, Team Fjarsengard has a fifth wheel, some cute girl they brought in to apologize for that cliche near-death crap from last time. She seems to like Fjarsengard, so I'll call her Girl I'm Willing to Take Over Boring Douchebag. Gute for short. Short, of course, for Gute to biz rute tabner gat bewat to the girl who's trying too hard, but I'm still willing to take over Boring Douchebag. Now really give his ass the boot. I well and truly hate that dull bastard. She seems nice, which takes us to Elsewhere, where Vincent Vega is fondling nuts. Yes, that Vincent Vega. He's grown a ponytail and become hardcore in the way that only a man who constantly fondles chestnuts can be. Also, he's bodyguarding the Green-Eyed Man, who's meeting some lab rats from Ultraman who tell him they want to see what the Green-Eyed Man is doing with their money. Being scientists and as such, prone to violence, the guys from Ultraman threaten the green-eyed man, causing Vincent Vega to beat the shit out of all of them, which doesn't stop one of them from at least making a lot of funny faces as he's arm-twisted into submission. Yes, literally. At which point the green-eyed man tells Vega that they're going to Kyoto. You'd think the two of them would already know that, but the real reason is to tell the audience that he was taking the Ultraman scientist money for gasoline that he might drive to Kyoto in his own bitchin' car. It's what's known as a dumb thing. Which brings us back to Fjosengard, who's doing his Hiro Nakamura excited to be in New York impression now that he's in Kyoto. Boring douchebag wanders off because he wants attention, and the rest of Team Fjosengard ditches Rainbow Joe by shooting him in the face with Ice Cream Robot, causing Rainbow Joe to break out a haiku ending with a sound effect, which causes Kyoto Tower to spit take. No, really, they got someone to animate that. Tower doing a spit take. Meanwhile, in different lighting, Orko is telling Vega not to help him be the villain of the arc. After all, 17th time's the charm, right? Orko's bound to win this one on his own. And on the moon, Team Fjosengard's Left Behind friends are trying too hard with visual gags. It caps with Lucy making an extremely vague and terrible reference to Journey to the West, which hurts me. Meanwhile, on planet Earth, Excitable Girl's being excitable and Gyu Tatabida is hitting on Fjosengard. Except Donna Troy's getting in her way, cause he randomly started thinking along the lines of, "Where's mine, bitch?" And then catty fun ensues. And by that I mean he makes her step on fucking caltrops. And then he sticks his head between her legs as he carries her off to where he can continue to harass her. Our number 2 hero, everybody. By which, of course, I mean he's a piece of shit. Of course, for that, Troy is pretty smug afterwards. Actually, he's happier than he's ever been. Which is still just mildly smug, but I stand by my shit bit. Where was I? Oh yeah, Orko shows up, walking right in front of our heroes because catching them off guard is what they'd expect, so he's one step ahead, by slowly walking towards them in plain sight. Fjosengard and Troy change forms to fight him, but again, despite seeing Troy change right in front of him, Orko doesn't notice who's behind the mask. I don't know about you, but I'm already sick of this action scene that hasn't started yet, so it sure is a lucky thing we get to see Gyu Tatabida telling Excitable Girl that she's into Fjosengard, and Excitable Girl resisting the temptation to tell Gyu Tatabida no fucking shit. It's a precious moment though, girls talking about boys in a superhero show, who doesn't want to see that? Oh yeah, and during the fight, Orko got away. And it's back to Vincent Vega, expositioning that there are 4 energy pillar thingies scattered throughout Kyoto. They have something to do with the ambiguous space hole from which space monsters get their space power. Of course, writing that lazy isn't really going beyond this arc, so Orko gets right to destroying one during the exposition. With only 3 of the ancient relics left, Link must gather them all to... I'm mixing things up, aren't I? What I mean is that Team Fjosengard has to protect the power pillars, or else they'll write that part later. Back to Team Fjosengard. No, it's boring douchebag. He's headed down to Kyoto Space College. Of course that's a thing. To talk to some professor who knew his late father. Well, the professor seems shocked that boring douchebag gives him the dignity of a name and wants to talk to him, so Professor, I'm not willing to give this guy the dignity of a name, obliges. That's of course after telling boring douchebag that he's quite like his father, I assume because he has the expression of a dead person on his face at all times. Of course, before we actually learn anything new, we see Donna Troy and Fjosengard doing period cosplay. Still feeling a rush of power from his sexual harassment, Troy gives Fjosengard crap for putting hose before whatever you call a man/manfish relationship. Cosplay, maybe? Back to boring douchebag, he learns all the details of the pillars of power. Said details being that they exist. How very helpful. And back to Fjosengard and Troy and Excitable Girl and Gyu Tatabida, they're being wacky. Also, Girl Unwilling to take over boring douchebag has made Excitable Girl her bitch, since there was still room for abuse in the episode. Also, Gyu Tatabida doing it means that the earlier harassment of her was justified. Right? Of course right. You're off the hook, Troy. No offense to your people. Well, the gang winds up splitting up, and Gyu Tatabida pretty much jumps Fjosengard's bones in the House of Ninjas. Of course they have those in Kyoto. But wait, Ninjas were in the House of Ninjas. Best plot twist ever. If you've forgotten, because I don't really mention them much, the villainous grunts of the show are space ninjas. You see, their presence is explained by, well, they're attacking now, that's what's important. But Fjarsengard doesn't really want to change in front of the only girl who likes him without knowing he's a superhero, so he's kinda screwed. Screwed until Donna Troy shows up to help. Oh, thank God, I thought that dilemma was going somewhere. So once Troy arrives, Fjarsengard immediately abandons Gyutabida without so much as a glance back to see if she's okay. He then changes to fight Orko, who's there apparently. Orko does his incredibly useful illusion-y magic you'd think he would use more often. Then he lets Fjarsengard get close for no reason and starts to struggle. It's around here that Vega's sick of having his thumb up his ass, so he changes forms to fight as his space monster self. Vega's power comes from the Leo Zodiac, so of course he looks like a dragon and breathes fire. He's also got those claws that other Vega is known for. Oh, and his fire seems to kill our heroes, and that's the end of the episode. Wow. After one episode, the titular character is dead again. I don't know how the hell this show keeps going. All the same, it ever does, so on with the next one.